Do you know who you are? Because I know who I am. You're watching Quantum Star Beauty. My name is Cashel, and welcome to my channel where we quantify the beauty of life. And in this video, I'm going to share with you guys my very first ayahuasca experience. So in February 2019, I traveled to Peru to participate in a week-long ayahuasca ceremony. I have a couple of things I'd like to say about it, and also to give you tips on how to prepare for an ayahuasca ceremony if you decide to do so. First of all, ayahuasca is a plant medicine that is two separate, the way that I can describe it, like two separate plants that are mixed together to create a tea that is basically like a psychedelic. The main potent ingredient in ayahuasca is DMT. And DMT is a molecule that can be found in all natural, all living things. DMT is in us as humans, it's in plants, it's in animals, anything that's alive, breathing, the DMT is present. And then the reason why a lot of people take it is because it's like this burst of spirit, and it puts you, it's like a psychedelic that puts you into like all kinds of cosmic trips, and is very, very healing, extremely healing for the body. It just like wakes up your body and puts you in a state of, I say, like, I call it 0 point, where it puts you back into the womb. That's just my interpretation of it. Puts you back into your natural human ability to just like thrive and live. I first heard about ayahuasca through Joe Rogan. Actually, I heard about, he makes this really, he is always talking about ayahuasca and how incredibly healing it is. But funny enough, he's actually never tried the medicine itself. He has tried DMT, and he speaks on that like explicitly about the spirit molecule DMT and how it's found in ayahuasca. But I just think it's funny that he's actually never tried, up until this point, from what I know. I don't know if he's tried it recently or not, but up until this point, he's never even tried ayahuasca, which is funny. But anyway, so the location that I was in Iquitos, Peru, which is this tiny little island just outside Lima. Really cool, interesting fact is that the only way to get to Iquitos, you have to fly to Lima, and you have to take either a plane or a boat. It cannot be accessed any other way. It was a beautiful country. It was third world, but I was in a jungle in this compound type thing that was like that felt like it was in the middle of nowhere. The weather was perfect. It was absolutely beautiful. The surroundings were gorgeous. You are in the natural, in just like this very natural space. The folks who ran the place, they were really nice. They were really cool. But I do have a couple of things to say about where I was at specifically. Let me just say it like this. If you can find ayahuasca in the United States and you are in the US, or you're in your home country, please like do it there. Do it in a very comfortable space. Do it in a space that you feel safe in, and is going to provide you more. I think the experience would be a lot more fruitful if you were in like a safer space. And it's not that I didn't feel physically safe, although I kind of do want to take that back, because there were some folks there, or one person in particular, who had a very, very bad trip that did make me feel unsafe, because she had death threats, or not her having death threats, but having fantasies and trips of killing everyone in the retreat. But yeah, okay, anyway, I'm going too far ahead. So I get to Peru, and the compound itself, like I said, was cool, but the only thing I didn't really like about the compound, and there are a couple of things, but one of the main things that I didn't really enjoy was the fact that there wasn't very much to do. There was no activities during the day. So ayahuasca ceremonies are typically held at night, usually like after 10 o'clock, between like 10 p.m. and till dawn. So you're up all night. But the trips themselves, when I say the trips, the ceremony itself is you're in a room with shamans, usually a group of shamans, and you are on a bed, and what's next to you is a bucket for you to purge, to vomit, whatever you have to do. Typically, there's if you do your research on ayahuasca itself, there's a particular chemical in the tea that stimulates some chemical in your stomach that like forces you to vomit. Most people do vomit. I do have a theory on those who don't vomit. You're supposed to vomit, okay? So okay. So you're in this bed and everybody's like singing or talking or whatever, and everybody goes one by one, and you have this little bitty shot glass of the tea. Now, if it's your first time taking it, they're going to give you a very small dose, like a spoonful, because it's very, very potent, very, very strong. And then another thing about ayahuasca is that you have to prepare to take ayahuasca. You have to go on a particular diet. There's like a long, long laundry list of foods that you cannot eat. Like just no processed meat, no sugar, no salt, like, I mean, a very, very strict diet. Some places I've seen 3 days prior, but for the most part, that particular retreat required a 2-week fast beforehand, and also a 2-week fast of other drugs, other any psychedelics or mushrooms that you might be taking, or marijuana. I made the drastic mistake of not listening to the marijuana portion of it. You need to make sure that you do not smoke marijuana before going on an ayahuasca journey. It is the worst thing that you could ever do to yourself. I know firsthand, and that's the one of the couple of regrets I have about it, but that's the one regret that I could just take back. Like, I will never smoke before an ayahuasca ceremony ever again. Only because it's like, if you think about it, things that have life have a consciousness. So ayahuasca is its own consciousness, and marijuana is its own consciousness too. In retrospect, I think of it like East Coast, West Coast rap. That's what I tell people. Like, they're their own thing, and you just gotta like respect the healing that they do. And if you try to like mix the two, it doesn't sound right. It's weird. Like, just let them do their thing. So if you're ever doing an ayahuasca trip, or you're considering it, and you are an avid marijuana smoker, like, please, 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 they tell you to fast from marijuana, please fast marijuana. Because you go crazy. Like, I went crazy, like, cuckoo crazy. We'll get into that in a minute. Anyway, so you're sitting on a bed, in the bed, or like a mat or something, and you drink the tea, and for about 30 minutes you're kind of just laying there, you're not really feeling anything, and you're like, oh, okay, cool, and then boom, all of a sudden you just feel like this tingling and this turning in your stomach, and then next thing you know, things start to just like, I don't know how to say it. It just, your senses start to heighten. So your sight starts to heighten, your ears, like your smell, everything, your sense of touch, everything starts to heighten and get more and more intense. And then next thing you know, you just fade into this like cosmic experience, and you're literally taken on a journey. If you've ever had mushrooms before, think of it like a mushroom trip times 10. Like, it's a full body experience. Like, mushrooms is a full body experience too, but this is like on another level, okay? Another level, like, you're gone. And one thing I learned about ayahuasca after talking to people who've had it, ayahuasca shows you exactly where you are at. So if you are already like typically in a lower vibrational mood most of the time, and you just have this like really rough, terrible outlook on life, I feel like you're going to see that wherever state you're in, like, ayahuasca meets you where you're at. For me, I was in an interesting place before going to Peru and like afterwards, but I basically had a really good trip. I mean, I had this vision where there was this bird, and ayahuasca or mother God. Like I feel like I met with God. Like, and she was this big dove, like this gorgeous, pretty, loving bird, and I was this little bitty red like bird, and she was holding me in her bosom, and she was just like, and she kept calling me little bird, little bird, little bird. Like, I got you. It's gonna be okay. Like, you're just fine. You're no one knows your body better than you, and that you are infinitely loved and you are supported. And I just got so many beautiful messages affirming my existence that by the end of my second ceremony, because the first ceremony I only had like a teaspoon, and I just kind of fell asleep, and I didn't really feel anything. I just felt like tingles in my sinus areas, and then that was it. But by the second one, I had a good amount to where I can have a trip. But in that particular trip, by the end of it, like I just saw all these like cool visions of just of love. I just felt loved. I felt this like inner hug, this feeling of oneness with the universe and oneness with God. And I just felt so, I'm like crying, I'm sobbing my eyes out, and I'm holding myself, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, thank you so very much, mama, like da da da. And at the end of every ceremony, people, you sing, there's singing involved, there's like music playing, and you're just like in this really cool euphoric state. And I gotta say, I had a really dope like trip. Like I've had a great ayahuasca trip. And what I learned was that I am infinite. Even it's funny because even ayahuasca herself, it's like this entity or this person or this consciousness. Like I said, ayahuasca is a consciousness. She came to me, and it was like I just saw rivers. Like I can't even, when you're trying to explain a trip, a psychedelic trip, there's just so many like patches. And I guess it doesn't really matter of what my trip actually was, because everyone's trip is going to be different. There was another person there were a couple of people there who had some pretty negative trips actually. One girl in particular had with the devil, and the devil came to her, and herself and the devil was killing everyone in the ceremony in various ways. So I mean, it can go from that type of spectrum to like this all loving, all encompassing spectrum. Like I feel like ayahuasca shows you exactly where you're at. But like I said, everybody's different. So all in all, and you do like, I was vomiting profusely. Like I vomited maybe like 3 times on that trip. The second or the third trip, I had this vision where I was inside of a tarot card looking thing, or like a card, oracle card, whatever card it was. And I ended up, I was a soldier. I was in like army fatigue, and I had this like AK-47 gun, and I was shooting at zombies, but the bullets that I was shooting at the zombies were like love bullets. So I'm like compassion, love, kindness, and I'm just like shooting them down of like all of these like cosmic magical ass love bullets. So that was really interesting. But like I said, I think I said it before, or maybe I said it in a different take. I don't know. This is like the 4th take, but only like criticism I would say, or like the cons or the parts that I didn't really agree with, was at the facility itself. It wasn't structured. It was pretty like, okay, well, you just sat around very uncomfortable because it was extremely hot. You're just sitting around all day long doing nothing, like extremely idle. And what does anybody know the saying of what happens to an idle mind? I'll just leave it at that. So there was no structure. I think they had yoga in the morning, like early morning, but by the time yoga happened, you're like exhausted from the trip that you don't want to do any yoga. Like you don't want to get up and do anything. But they didn't have any activities for us to do. So you're either just like reading, or you're journaling, or whatever, but you can only do that so much for over the course of a week. There was no structure, and that's what I did not like. Like I was bored out of my mind, and very hot and uncomfortable. So that's what I didn't like either. The scenery was beautiful. I loved the plants, and it was great. There was a bit of a language barrier, so it was hard to like communicate my needs. It wasn't like it was okay, but yeah, it was there. I would say the language barrier was a bit of a struggle for me. Um, but all in all, anybody who's doing ayahuasca, do your research. Number one, and number two, just do research on where you're doing it at. I felt like, and I'm leaving a lot out. I'm leaving like a lot out. Only because for like time purposes and just like I'm still kind of processing everything that happened out there still, after 9 months. But it I will also want to say that the people who were there at the retreat did not do a very good job in integrating the experience of ayahuasca. I feel like ayahuasca is such a heavy, heavy medicine that it takes a certain amount of hand holding and a certain amount of support and coaching and patience that I feel the folks at the facility just didn't have for me. Um, yeah, they didn't have that for me because I was dealing with a lot at the time, emotionally, and I did a lot of work. After that, I did a lot of work on my own, and I came to my own integration, but they just didn't do a very good job with having this sort of empathy to care for my process. And at the end of the day, even ayahuasca herself during one of my trips told me that I didn't even need the medicine. I didn't need anything. So that I had all the goods, that I already had it. Everything that I need was already inside of me. And that was still solidified even more when I went on a 10-day meditation retreat, which is in another video, which I will definitely post in the future, very near future. But all in all, ayahuasca is a very intense medicine. Do your research. If you can do it in the US, oh my gosh, please do it in the US. Do it in the comfort of your area. I later on in June was fortunate enough to have an ayahuasca ceremony here in Illinois, and it was 1,000 times better. Like 1,000 times better, to like I was able to like get up and home and just like process and have all of that. Whereas in Peru, it's just like it was just way too intense for me. And like I said, idle minds is dangerous. But anyway, I will say, if you could just like save your money, it's extremely expensive. At least for me, it was way too expensive, I think. And a lot of these retreats in internationally are very overpriced, and sometimes they don't really look at the person. I feel that they're not just certain. I guess I felt at that particular retreat that I wasn't valued as a person. Felt like I was just another like dollar sign. Yeah, I'll just go out there and say it. Like, the folks there were really nice, but I feel like ultimately at the end of the day, it was just about the money and not about my spiritual evolution. But thank God that God put it in me to do and figure things out for myself. So if you have any questions, please leave a comment and I'll be happy to answer them for you. But otherwise, thank you so very much for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and definitely leave comments if you have done ayahuasca yourself and how that experience was for you. Thank you so much again, and have a great day or night wherever you are in the world. Peace.